Good morning everyone. A blessed Sunday po sa inyong lahat. Gandang umaga din po, Mr. Giancarlo Tapas. For Group 5, ang na-assign po topic sa amin is Curriculum Evaluation. No, for this topic, this focuses on the last stage ng ating curriculum development. So together with me sa Group 5, ako po, si Mark Illinois L. Denosta. Together with me is Mr. Ryan S. Arias, Ms. Jeremy A. Lozada, Mr. Christopher M. Royo, Ms. Maricel, si Ms. Jing, si Reglatuelo. Okay, for the course outline, so for the introduction to curriculum evaluation, the definition and the purpose ay sa akin po naka-assign. And for what to evaluate, and the forms of evaluations will be presented by Mr. Ryan Arias. And for curriculum models will be discussed and presented by Mr. Christian Royo and Ms. Jeremy A. Lozada. And for eclectic approach and tools, methods, and techniques will be presented by Ms. Maricel Regala Truel. And for this topic, no, ang ating objectives, okay, o yung ating expected learning outcome, upang malaman natin, no, kung ano ba ang importansya ng ating curriculum evaluation, no, and bakit ba natin kailangan siya gawin, at paano ba siya gawin. No? Yan yung ating objectives for this learning session. So, introduction natin, no, for curriculum evaluation. So this is from the book of curriculum development, commonly called as Adriana, by Miss Emerita Reyes and Erlinda Dizon. So dito, no, sa introduction na to, sinasabi na lahat daw ng educational program or activity, no, okay, na nagdaan sa process of deliberate planning and follow defined procedures and methodology ay kailangan po ma-determine yung worth or value niya. Yan. At, okay, so, dito sinasabi na, sabi nga, lahat ng mismo mga activities natin, no, or yung mga educational activities natin, okay, ay importante, no, upang ma-address yung mga requirements natin para sa mismo quality education. So, dito rin sinabi yung last stage nga daw po ng ating curriculum development process is the curriculum evaluation. Dito na natin, no, malalaman kasi kung tumatakbo pa ba na maayos yung ating curriculum based on the execution or implementation, or it needs improvement, or kailangan na bang palitan. Yan. At sabi nga natin, no, as part of decision making, yung mismong curriculum evaluation, no, so it leads to either ma-improve o mabago yung ating curriculum, okay, no, sa isang mas relevant at mas responsive, no, sa mga changing landscape of education, and more importantly to the changing needs ng ating mga learners, no. Well, no, sabi nga yun, kagaya ngayon kung bakit na bago din yung curriculum natin is to adapt dun sa mga changes, sa mga innovations din ng ating mga learners, as well as para maging competitive yung mismo mga graduates, no, dito sa ating bansa at makipagsabayan sa ibang bansa din. Yan. At when we say curriculum, no, this is defined as the sum total of all learning experience, both planned and unplanned, that are accorded to the learners under the guidance of an educational institution that is tasked with developing the learners to become productive and effective, no, in contributing members of the society. Yan. Kaya nga, ini-evaluate natin, no, para mas ma-appreciate natin talaga yung quality, or mas ma-attain natin yung quality education. For curriculum evaluation, no, as per Stavelbeam noong 1991, okay, This refers to the formal process of determining the quality, effectiveness, or value of curriculum. At ito daw po, no, ay nag-involve ng value ng judgment about dun sa curriculum, both terms of process and its product. Okay? For the process evaluation, okay, kadalasan daw po itong ginagamit ko, ang intention daw po ay papasok sa tatlong sitwasyon na to. Ano daw po yan? First is to provide empirical data or by observation, and that may possibly determine the extent of which plan for curriculum implementation have been executed and resources were used wisely. Yan, no? So, by observation, no? Natin na verify daw, no? Yung mga data o na-obtain. And, no? Para ma-provide daw yung assistance, no? For necessary kung kailangan ng baguhin or i-clarify yung mismong mga implementation plans. Upang ma-assess din po natin yung degree which curriculum implementers kung nakikarried out ba nila yung mga roles and responsibilities nila doon sa mismo execution o yung implementation na mismo ng curriculum. And, no, on the other hand, the product evaluation is used if the intent of curriculum evaluation is to gather, interpret, okay, and appraise, no, curricular attainments as often as necessary upang ma-determine natin how well the curriculum meet the needs of students, no, dun sa kanyang intention mismo. Okay? Yan si process at si product. Now, no, for curriculum evaluation natin, okay, so this is also involves yung mismong process na delineating, okay, obtaining, and providing information for judging ng mga decisions and alternatives, okay, for the value of judgment para mas-set yung experience selected for educational purposes. Pag sinabi natin delineating, no, this is to describe precisely, no, yung mismong, ano po, okay, yung mismong ini-execute na curriculum. At yung mga datas daw po na ma-obtain, no, from the evaluation, okay, ito daw po yung magde-determine mismo ng effectiveness ng curricular programs and activities, no, which are measured in terms of predetermined goals and objectives. Okay? At ang curriculum po, no, curriculum evaluation, involves a process, no, that educationists or curricularists, no, in particular are actually engaged in the purpose of gathering data, no, upang ano po, okay, in order for them, no, to arrive at a decision as the whether to accept, modify, or change, or maybe even remove, no, something in the curriculum in general or an educational material in particular. This is from Ornstein and Hankins naman noong 1998. Now, noong 1990 naman, okay, yan, no, dinefine po ni Gatawa, no, in three ways si curriculum evaluation, no. At first, sabi niya, this is the process of describing and judging an educational program or subject. This is also process ng pagko-compare ng mga student performance with behaviorally stated objectives. Isa pa is process na ng pagde-define or pag-o-obtain and using relevant information, okay, for decision-making purposes. Okay? Now, no, natutunan na natin na yung pala si evaluation, no? No, para malaman natin o ma-check natin or ma-validate natin yung mismong curriculum natin. Now, what is the purpose of evaluation? Okay? First, syempre, no, time, no, and again, no, yung mga educationists, okay, would always speak about imperativeness of education as key factor to the national development, no? So dito, no, sinasabi yung importansya ng edukasyon, no, as a key factor para ma-develop yung isang country, no. Likewise, kaya in-improve nga rin po yung ating curriculum para makipagsabayan sa mga ibang bansa, no? Yung ating mga, okay, graduates dito sa ating bansa. Now, no? Sabi nga ni Villena, no? Wherein education is development and development is education, and that there can never be development without education. No? So vice versa daw, no? It means, okay, no? Hindi daw magde-develop, no? Especially yung isang country, no? Okay? Habang walang edukasyon. Okay? Yan, no? Yan yung mismong importansya, okay, ng ating edukasyon as key factor nga daw po to national development. And, okay, no? For the purpose pa rin ng ating evaluation, okay, this is important mechanism para ma-monitor natin at makakuha tayo ng feedback about the curricular program, no? Kung siya ba ay tumatakbo na maayos, no? Effective ba siya? And para ma-determine natin yung mga kailangan nating intervention o kailangan nating gawin, no? Upang ma-evaluate natin, no, yung mga desired outcomes ng isang programa, no? Or yung ini-implement nating programa. Yan. O yung ating curricular, no? Development o yung na-develop nating curriculum, mismo nagra-run ba effectively? Okay? At, okay, bakit ba tayo nag-e-evaluate? First, no? Siyempre, sabi nga natin it meets the current demands of educational reforms that have been made, no? Okay? At dito, no, sinasabi sa slide na neto, okay, yung pinapakita niya yung difference, no, nung na-develop na curriculum, no, versus dun sa actual execution, no, o yung mismong actual implementation ng isang curriculum na na-develop. Yan, no? Dito na natin makikita kung yung sabi nga natin from the developed curriculum versus the reality or yung mismong implementation na. At, okay, si Cronbach noong 1963, okay, na-emphasize that the evaluation process needs to be focused on gathering and disseminating information that could help direct and guide decision-making process in line with educational program, more particularly sa pagde-develop ng ating curriculum. Okay? Now, no, na-distinguish niya yung 3 types of decision para sa evaluation. Okay? And first, dun sa ating, no, types of decision is the course improvement. This pertains to what instructional method and materials upang ma-meet yung mga objectives ng isang curriculum. Okay? And where changes are needed. No? Yan. Next, no, is decision about individuals. No? This is identifying the needs of learners or vis-a-vis or learners related daw. Okay? Sabi nga natin, yung mga learners-centered natin. And planning for instruction and grouping and making the learners become aware and conscious of their own deficiencies. Yan, yung isang type of decision natin. No? Under, okay, kay Cronbach, no, kung bakit ba natin kailangan mag-evaluate. At lastly, is the administrative regulation. This focuses on the judging how good the school system and how good individual teachers are. Yan, no? So, more on dun na sa mismong school system at dun sa mismong guro. And ang goal ng ating evaluation should include answers, no, okay, to questions about the selection, adoption, support, and worth of educational materials, no, and activities. Moreover, it must also serve the need of the policymakers, administrators, educational leaders, and managers and other members of the society for the information about educational system. Yan po for curriculum evaluations for the, okay, introduction, okay, the purpose, and bakit ba natin kailangan ng curriculum evaluation. So, next to me is Mr. Ryan Arias, no, to discuss yung ating what to evaluate and yung ating forms of evaluation.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Arias. I will be your second reporter regarding curriculum evaluation. So my topic is regarding what to evaluate and forms of evaluation. So what to evaluate? First is goals and objectives. It is important to note that the contents and materials and methodologies of a curriculum must fit the goals and objectives to which such program are conceptualized and eventually developed. Therefore, it is imperative that these goals and objectives need to deliberately examine through an evaluation process. Second is content and methodology. Content and methodology contents of the developed curriculum or any educational program need to be examined and evaluated in order to determine whether they relate with the needs of the learners for whom the curriculum was developed, and also to establish the congruency between the methodology and the curriculum objectives, as well to determine the appropriateness of the content. And lastly is the outcome results, or these are outcomes or results that serve as the ultimate measure of how successful or effective the curriculum has been achieving its goals and objectives. So again, when we say curriculum evaluation, the curriculum evaluation refers to the collection of information on which judgment might be made about the worth and the effectiveness of a particular program. So under the curriculum evaluation, we have forms of curriculum evaluation. So we have formative evaluation, summative evaluation, and diagnostic evaluation. So first up is formative evaluation. So what is a formative evaluation? When we say formative evaluation, so formative evaluation is generally any evaluation that takes place before or during a project's implementation with the aim of improving the project design and performance. So it is an ongoing classroom process that keeps students and educators informed of students' progress toward program learning objectives. The main purpose of formative evaluation is to improve instruction and student learning. The formative evaluation does not require time and money, and this may be a barrier to be undertaking it, but it should be viewed as valuable investment that improves the likelihood of achieving successful outcome through better program design. So why we should use formative evaluation in your practice as a teacher? So we should practice formative evaluation as a teacher because it is your responsibility to find out if your student do not understand what is being taught. Students are going to have misconceptions. So students will become lost at time poor teachers continue to teach whether or not the students understand. However, teachers need to know if the students doesn't understand what is being told. Otherwise, you're going to wind up the class full of confused students that haven't anything. So the master teachers use formative evaluation to make decisions to reteach or move forward. So use formative evaluation to change a teaching method, to assign an extra homework or even. So when we should use a formative evaluation. So we move forward on the next topic when we should use formative evaluation. So it should be used continuously throughout the lesson. It should be integrated with your instruction to the point where you and assess, teach and assess, etc. and so on and so forth. So make it comfortable for your students to respond to your questions. So formative evaluation should take place firmly during the teaching process. So here are some examples of formative evaluation. So first up is hand signal 1 to 5. So hand 1 signal to 5, or so a teaching may be working, let's say at the some point that teacher will want to stop. So they will formatively evaluate their students by having them rate their understanding on the scale from 1 to 5 using their fingers. So one finger is the lowest level of understanding. So students will put up one finger if they are absolutely lost. So two fingers indicate the student has a vague understanding. Okay? Then three fingers indicate the student is in the middle. And a four fingers means the student has a good understanding. And five fingers is the highest level of understanding. So meaning 5 fingers means that the student has a mastery. So ultimately 1 to 5 is the quickest way to evaluate a large group of students. So number two example is brainstorming. So brainstorming usually takes place before introducing a new topic. So teachers usually use brainstorming to get an idea of their students already know about a topic. So as some example, for example, predator-prey relationships. So then list of the examples on the board. So the good part is students will also learn the examples of predator and prey as you brainstorm. So brainstorming is a great assessment in gauging classes prior knowledge on a topic. So third example is exit tickets. So as you can see, so usually mainly at the end of the lesson, so hence toward to the exit of the teacher will ask an essential question that revolves on big concept of the lesson. So formula assessment are always meant to be quick. Give students about 2 to 3 minutes only. So 2 to 3 minutes only to give students. So students are given a small slip of paper is answered on the slip of paper. So you can use exit tickets to track implementation of standards throughout the course. So exit tickets are best used in assessing a lesson overall objective or goal. Then fourth example or number 4 example is think, pair, share. So think, pair, share is a three-part assessment. So this three-part assessment first, the first part is think. Think is the first thing you do is assign your classic question. So think about in your con, be sure to give students appropriately time for the question. Then step 2 of our three part is pair. So pair students with the climate with your classmate. It is probably best that the teacher chooses the partners working together. This assignment helps to promote the 21st century life skills. And don't forget to allow students to compare their thoughts and answers. And our last part of the step is share. Share now your students is called upon share their thoughts on the question with the rest of the classroom. So the teacher will make corrections on the students' responses for all to hear. So this assessment is also an excellent classroom activity. So this is the step of think, pair, share. Now, our last example is whiteboards. So individual whiteboards is to perform this assessment. So teachers must provide each student with an individual whiteboard. To distribute an individual whiteboard to each student, then ask the student questions such as for example, what is the square root of 144? So the sitter will respond by writing their response to the question on the whiteboard using a dry whiteboard marker. So now, the teacher will individually assess each student or student's response, and more importantly, the teacher can give appropriate corrections to any corrections he made or she made. The student can both see the mistake and learn from the mistake. So whiteboards are the best way to simultaneously assess and reteach. So these are some examples of formative assessment or formative evaluation. So we go now to the benefits of formative evaluation. So the benefits of formative evaluation first is it identifies problems in teaching and learning and it helps to correct it. Second, by being formative, it diagnostic weakness at an early stage of purpose of remediation or individual teaching. For instance, the teacher is failing to read. The teacher can quickly and find remedy. Thus, keep students on toes or even in the track of progress, gives immediate feedback which is motivating. Next is formative is also deal for future planning in terms of changing teaching methods and pupils' activities. Through resetting objectives, use of effective media, regrouping and assessment methods as it helps to plan also extension for the excelling students. So these are the benefits of formative assessment. So we go now to summative evaluation. So this is the second form or second type of curriculum evaluation. So what is a summative evaluation? So summative evaluation can take place during the project implementation, but it is most often undertaken at the end of the project. As such as summative evaluation can also be referred as ex post evaluation. So the teacher uses summative evaluation to determine what has been learned over a period of time. So to summarize students' progress and to report to students, parents, and educators on progress relative to curriculum objectives. Then it occurs most often at the end of the unit. So why should we use assessment in education? So why we should we use summative assessment or summative evaluation in education? So summative evaluation are absolutely necessary because children in school need to master essential skills and knowledge successful in life. Students should not be pushed through a grade. So, when we should use a summative assessment? So, summative assessment are something that should be planned for students. And it should be afforded ample time to study and prepare for the summative assessment. So, and summative assessment should be given at the end of the unit of period and courses. Okay? So this is when we should use a summative assessment. So we go now to our examples. So now here are some examples of summative assessment. First up is the portfolios. So they are great alternative assessments for students who struggle with test-taking skills. Next up is projects. So these are my favorite students appreciate in project assessments from their teachers. Next is interviews. So they are not typical, but teachers can learn a lot about students' knowledge by simply asking questions. Then next up, essays. So essays usually require higher order thinking skills and depth request is awarded properly. The tests may be standardized like part or like midterms and finals. And lastly, presentations. Being able to present shows mastery as develop speaking skills. So these are some examples of summative evaluation. So we go now to benefits of summative evaluation. So it is judgmental in nature, hence it shows the worth or value of the program. So it can be used for decision making so that the learners can easily selected into placement streams, such as pupils are put into classes according to their test results. Then it is a useful tool for guidance and counseling. Above all, it is done to evaluate the effectiveness of teachers. So these are the benefits. So we go Okay, so here are some tips or for utilizing of some assessments. So I'll give you some tips on how to utilize of some assessments. So first, so all students learn differently and great teachers differentiate instruction. So this is to help optimize student learning. Second, when incorporating different instructional practices, teachers should also provide a variety of assessments that match with the types of instruction. Then varying assessments give students different opportunities to succeed. Then another is provide clear instructions. So if the student does the does not understand the question, can expect them to get the correct answer. Next is have students show work. So there may be times when students forget to circle an answer, or maybe they make a small mistake. Nevertheless, a minor should not have a major effect on a grade. The next is depth of knowledge. So simply being to recall or recite information isn't enough anymore. Assess students' ability to synthesize, apply, evaluate. So think Bloom's taxonomy and web depth of knowledge. Next is give students enough time to test. So standardized tests are a little bit different, but students should not have to rush through a test simply to pass. And also give enough study time. So some of the assessments measure long-term learning, and some of the assessments are not meant to be a top assessment. Then lastly is to assess what was covered in class or in a class. So teachers have no right to be material on a test if they do not cover the material with their students. So placing uncovered material on a test often costs you the trust of your students. Lastly, question weight should be proportional the amount of time spent in the class. So you will make a topic 90% of the test if you spend 5% of your time covered it in a class. So assessment tests or assessment items should be reflective of the amount of time spent in the class. So we go now to the third type, which is a diagnostic evaluation. So imagine being a teacher in a new classroom. You begin teaching a lesson only to be met upstairs of from confusion from your students. When you ask the students if they understand what they are teaching, they reply that they have no idea what you're talking about. So now, imagine teaching the same class after conduct conducting a pretest to determine what students already know about the topic. So which scenario sounds preferable? Which result which will result in a better experience for both teacher and the students. So what is a diagnostic evaluation? So when we say diagnostic evaluation, so diagnostic evaluation is a form of pre-evaluation that allows a teacher to determine students' individual strengths, weaknesses, knowledge, and skills prior to instruction. It is a primarily used to diagnose the student difficulties and to guide lesson and curriculum planning. As you may have surmised, diagnostic assessment benefits both instructor and the students. So it is usually occurs at the beginning of the school year or before a new unit. It identifies students who lack prerequisite knowledge, understanding, or skills. Diagnostic testing also identifies student interest, and diagnostic evaluation provides information essential to teachers designing appropriate programs for all students. Usually, analysis of this evaluation occurs only when first is content of curriculum is updated. Second, something is added. Third is something is taken out. So teachers take evaluation by these methods. So why we should use diagnostic evaluation? So well, in a given classroom, now every student is going to be at the same level. So now let's say the first day of the school and you're getting a large group of 6th graders. So don't assume that your student has the prerequisite skills necessary for your class. I mean, they could have to sleep through the entire 5th grade. So this is diagnostics come into play. So diagnostic help to identify the gaps that you're going to deal to help guide your future instruction. Now, how to or how do you incorporate or to utilize diagnostic evaluation into the classroom? So well, diagnostic should not given too often. When given, it should be starting a new unit or starting new course. So a diagnostic evaluation isn't something you want to hold to answer the student. So either they are not meant to be great, rather the teacher's reference. Now at the times that may not give full effort due the fact that there is no grading, but you want to try to get the accurate results the best you can. So now here are some examples of diagnostic evaluation. So first up is the textbook pre-course test. So most of the classrooms have designed textbooks, and those tests have diagnostics within you. So some texts allow for download assessments. Overall of this is a good assessment. So if you are a teacher who likes to teach through a book, so we call this textbook pre-course test. Next up is diagnostic questionnaires. So these are the best when you're just looking to save of some time. So they are very quick and students check off levels of interest and levels on various topics. Make this diagnostic anonymous for honest responses. And lastly, teacher design test. So like anything else in life, it is probably the best if you do it yourself and the down and and that's the key here. So you can create your own diagnostic. So the downside the downside of this is the downside of creating of your own diagnostic is that it takes a lot of time. Okay, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. So teachers are very busy, already busy, and it can be time consuming. So benefits, so we go now to benefits of diagnostic evaluation. So first, it allows the teachers to plan meaningful and efficient instruction. So when a teacher knows exactly what students know or don't know about the topic, he or she can focus lessons on the topics. So students still need to learn about rather than what they already know. So this is cuts down the students' frustration and boredom. Then second, it provides information to individualize instruction. It may show a teacher that a small group of students need additional instruction on a particular portion of a unit or course of study. He can then provide remediation for those students so that they can fully engage with their new content. Then it is helper in solving problems of students. It is helper in making or make teachers' performance better. It is helper in encourage students and teachers, and it is helper in educational plans. Thank you very much. For our next presenter, Ms. Jeremy Lozada, she will present a topic regarding curriculum models.
My name is Charmy Lozada, and I'm going to discuss the curriculum evaluation models. First, let's discuss what is curriculum. Curriculum is the dynamic process. A change for the better means any alteration, modification, or improvement of existing condition to produce positive changes. Development should be purposeful, planned, and progressive. This is how curriculum evolves. Evaluation. Evaluation is the process of collecting data on program to determine its value or worth with the aim of deciding whether to adopt, reject, or revise the program. And models are useful because they help us define the parameters of an evaluation, what concepts to study, and the procedures to be used to extract important data. Determining the extent to which a particular program or activity or any undertaking for that matter requires scientific procedures in order to come up with something equally scientific, which is highly important in dealing with the veracity or accuracy, validity or valid, and reliability or consistency of results. Simply means that the purpose of curriculum evaluation is to determine whether or not the newly adopted curriculum is producing the intended results and meeting the objectives that it has set forth. And it is an essential component in the process of adapting and implementing a new curriculum in educational setting. Another purpose is to gather data that will help in identifying areas in need of improvement or change. How then should educators, schools, and other learning institutions go about evaluating curriculum? Several experts and evaluation practitioners have come up with their respective models on how and what should be involved in doing curriculum evaluation. The curriculum goal is always to make sure that students are being provided with the best education, and the curriculum evaluation is a means of deciding whether the chosen curriculum is going to bring school closer to that goal. Models of evaluation. Model represents an exemplar or an ideal pattern of something that may be worthy of imitation or to be regarded as a guide for people to follow in the event of using, adopting, or implementing a particular program or activity. The significance of models may come in terms of how they may help curriculum persons and evaluation practitioners in defining the parameters of an evaluation, including more importantly what concepts need to be studied and the procedures to be used necessary to extract important data. The term model may be used in two general ways: prescriptive model and descriptive model. So when we say prescriptive model, it provides us with what ought to happen, and they are more often than now and take the form of a plan, an intended program, or some kind of expert opinion about what needs to take place in the course of study. When we say descriptive model, it goes beyond the prescriptive terms as they first thought about the curriculum, not merely in terms of how things are ought to be, but how things are in real classrooms. Provides glimpses of the curriculum in action. Pag prescriptive, ought to, and intended. Pag descriptive naman, real and experiences. So the four models are Tyler's objective-centered model, Stoffel-Beam CIPP model, stakes-responsive model, and Eisner consortium model. The educational impact of the works of Ralph Tyler cannot be underestimated in the context of curriculum evaluation. His rather enormous contribution in the area of educational evaluation has earned him the reputation of being the father of evaluation. Tyler and Smith's model begins with defining the teacher's philosophy, followed with identifying desired outcomes, spelled out in the forms of educational goals, purposes, and objectives, and then proceeding with designing and evaluating the curriculum accordingly by means of examining the three essential elements: the learners, the life in the community, and the subject matter. First, determine the objective or student's needs, and then identify or develop learning experiences. Third is to organize, determine the experience relevancy, and evaluate or to assess the objective. First, determine the objective or student's needs. Then, identify or develop learning experiences. Third, organize, determine the experience relevancy, and evaluate or to assess the objective. Before the objective proceed, it has to pass the twin screening, which is the philosophical or social values and psychological or learning effect on human being. The three essential elements: student as a source. The curriculum should be based on the learner's wants and needs. Society as a source. The curriculum should be based on the environment and the community, wherein the learners can identify the problem in the society and find a way to solve it in their own way. Subject matter as a source. Tyler believes that the learner can master the subject matter, where the knowledge takes place when the learner can understand the subject matter and its underlying structures. And Gen Dewey's learning by doing. So Tyler objective-centered model, according to Platter 1987, page 273, can be best described in terms of rational and systematic movement of evaluation procedures looking at the several related steps. Begin with the behavioral objectives. It should specify both the content of learning and the student behavior expected. Second, give students the opportunity to express the behavior embodied in the objective and that evoke or encourage such behavior. Third, select, modify, or construct suitable evaluation instruments and check the instruments for objectivity, reliability, and validity. Fourth, Use the instruments to obtain, summarize, or appraise results. Fifth, compare the results obtained from several instruments before and after given periods. Six, analyze the results to determine strengths and weaknesses of the curriculum and to identify possible explanations about the reason for this particular pattern of strengths and weaknesses. Seven, use the results to make the necessary modification in the curriculum. Basically, Tyler's objective-centered model in evaluating curriculum has been found to be advantageous as it is relatively easy to understand and apply. In addition, rather than just being concerned solely on individual students' performance, the model places more attention on curricular strengths and weaknesses that serve as significant input in improving the curriculum. An important feature of Tyler's approach is the importance it gives to a continuing cycle of assessment, analysis, and improvement inasmuch as the major task of education is to keep on improving the quality of education delivered via instruction, which is primarily anchored on the mandated curriculum. So the next model is Stufflebeam's Context Input Process and Product Model, or CIPP model, developed by Phi Delta Kappa, chaired by Daniel Stufflebeam. According to Creighton 1992, visits that this model can be used for both formative and summative kind of evaluation activity. So this model, which accordingly seems to appeal educational leaders, emphasizes the importance of producing evaluative data that can be used for decision making. Since the view of the Phi Delta committee that worked on the model was that decision making is the sole justification and rationale for conducting an evaluation. According to SEC 1980, formative evaluation is conducted during the instructional phase, allowing teachers to know if students are achieving the instructional objective as well as the lessons done on time, and to find ways for improvement. Now, the summative evaluation is done at the end of the instructional program. This is to check the quality and quantity of learning of students. This has been evident in his statement when he said, perhaps the most significant characteristics of CIPP is that it makes provision for holistic evaluation. Its elements are systems oriented, structured to accommodate universal evaluation needs. He also noted and observed that this is one model that offers process evaluation, which very seldom is not found in other evaluation models. The formative aspect of evaluation model makes it more relevant and responsive to the task of evaluation, particularly if the concern is more on monitoring the implementation of curriculum and other related programs. To respond more effectively to the needs of decision makers, this Stufflebeam model provides a means of generating data relative to the four phases of program evaluation: context, input, process, and product evaluation. So, nakikita niyo po yung core values. Yung core values ng context is goal, sa input naman plans, actions sa process, and the outcomes sa product. Starting with context evaluation, evaluators examine the resources and backgrounds within the program, such as the scope of the evaluation and support the program has in place. Looking at the overarching goals, exploring background information, and cultural context are all components included during this stage. Once the goals are assessed, evaluators can move into the input evaluation stage of the model. During the input evaluation stage, the review focuses on identifying the key stakeholders and examining the program budget. This stage also collects information about planning and strategies for implementation, including human resources and timeline. During the third stage of process evaluation, the activities of the program are assessed with a focus on continuous improvement. What is being done? Is it being done well? What needs to be addressed for change? Finally, evaluators using CIPP measure the outcomes of the program and how effectively those outcomes are being addressed. The product of evaluation feedback whether regards maintaining, improving, abandoning that which is being evaluated, they can ask what is the impact and how sustainable is the program. The focus of this evaluation is to judge the accomplishments and make decisions. So, context evaluation. When we say context evaluation, assess the overall environmental readiness of the project, examine whether existing goals and priorities are attuned to the needs, and assess whether proposed objectives are sufficiently responsive to assessed needs. It answers the question what needs to be done. For input evaluation, concerns judgment about resources and strategies. For input evaluation, concerns judgment about resources and strategies needed to accomplish program goals and objectives. For input evaluation, concerns judgment about resources and strategies needed to accomplish program goals and objectives. Refers to the ingredients of the curriculum. It answers the question, how should it be done? For process evaluation, refers to the ways and means of how the curriculum has been implemented. Involves the collection of data once the program has been designed and put into operation, assess the extent to which participants accept and carry out their roles, and detecting strengths and weaknesses of the data collected. It answered the question of is it being done? For product evaluation, to determine the extent to which goals of the program have been achieved. Measure, interpret, and judge a project's outcomes by assessing their merit, worth, significance, and probability. Ascertain the extent to which the needs of all participants were met. The data collected can be used to make decisions about the program and making modifications for improvement. It answered the question, did the project succeed? The last slide. According to Glather, 1987 points out that all throughout the four stages of the model, the following specific steps are undertaken. According to Pace and Friedlander, 1987, in totality, the CIPP model looks at evaluation both in terms of processes and products or outcomes, not only at the conclusion of the programs, but also at various phases or stages of program implementation. Outcomes are expected to be offshoots of predetermined objectives, and differences are noted between expected and actual results. In effect, CIPP model enables the decision makers to continue, terminate, or modify the program. So that's all. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Royo, and today I'm going to discuss another curriculum models, which are Stakes Responsive Model and Eisner Connoisseurship Model. So before I proceed to the report, I would like to address some unfamiliar words. Um, responsive. So responsive is reacting quickly and positively. Next is approach. It is the way of looking at teaching and learning. Next is model. So model is a system or thing used as an example to follow or imitate. Stakeholders refers to anyone who is invested in the welfare and success of a school and its students, including administrators, teachers, staff members, students, parents, families, community members, local business leaders, and elected officials such as board members. Primordial. So primordial is existing at or the beginning of time. Now, who is Robert Stake? So Robert Stake was born in December 18, 1927 in Adams, Nebraska, a PhD psychometrics at Princeton University. He also developed stake responsive models. According to Stake, we must evaluate the quality of the curriculum by its qualities. In order to do that, we need to have made evaluation that is formative and to gather different points of view in the process. So stake responsive model was initially designed in 1973. It was created to be a system for evaluating educational programs. So in this model, it is also an approach that trades off the measurement precision in order to make the findings more useful to persons involved with the program. So stake responsive models have three essential elements, and those are antecedents, transactions, outcomes. So when we say antecedents, it is refers to the condition existing prior to the intervention. So in here, it is more likely in the outcomes which is affect the programs. Next is transaction. In here, it pertains to event or experiences that constitute the program. So my example in here are the countless encounters of student with the teacher, student with the student, and author with the reader, or the parent with the counselor. Next, outcomes. So when we say outcomes, which it is refer which are the effect of the programs. Now in here, this include the measurements of the impact or the result of the instruction to the learners. So here are the 12 parts of the stake responsive model. So here, there are no particular order and can be repeated and be skipped. They are, mm, they are to identify the program scope, review the program ideas, discover purposes of concern, conceptualize issue and problems, identify data needs, select observers, judges, and instruments, observe designated and tested instructions and outcomes, dramatize and prepare for trails and case studies, match issues to audience, use assemble reports and talk to the client's program staff and audiences, and once again, these are no particular order, but there was an emphasis to cosmic communication with the program staff and audiences. Next is literature review of the stakes responsive model. So in these values and perspective are held and recognized by this model, this put a special emphasis on stakeholders, and it also considered to be client-centered, with the client being educators, parents, children, and other party of stakeholders. It allows for evaluation for information to be accessible to all stakeholders. Now this is the strengths of the stakes responsive model. So this is that the program can be viewed from various viewpoints when this evaluation tool is used. This process also flexible to fit a variety of needs. So next is limitation. Uh, the limitation of this model was some of the limitation of this model was is that process is complex. The process can actually require a lot of time, and in some cases be as long as a program themselves. Another limitation is that evaluator is part of the program. Then lastly, Result can be more subjective than objective when using these tools as its stakeholders has own viewpoints on desired results. The application of this model was um, it is useful when discussing program, like we're engaged by the program and what they learned. It also useful when the audience uh, want to understanding of what of the activity and of the strengths and shortcomings of the program. So in summary of this model, uh, it is used when the results are needed quickly. Questions emerge during this process. This process is flexible and it is content-rich which is accessible to the audiences. It provides the audience with the opportunities to interact with the Valerie's feedback, also interact with the evaluator about their concerns. And that's all for the stakeholders responsive, or I mean rather, stakes responsive model. Now, let's proceed to the another model, which is Eisner connoisseurship model. So, in this model, it was developed by Elliot W. Eisner. I'm sorry for the word, for the wrong spelling of his surname. It should be Eisner. Sorry for that. So he is the famous, the uh, remarkable works are the art educational evaluations and educational imagination. Elliot W. Eisner was born on December 10, 1933 in Chicago. He was died January 10, 2014. He also developed the Eisner connoisseurship model. So, Elliot Eisner stated that the art teach children that a problem can have more than one solution and that question can have more answer. Next is so this model, Eisner connoisseurship model, is an approach to evaluation emphasized to qualitative appreciation. According to him, it is important to get into the details of what actually happening inside the classroom. So in this model, Eisner developed and proposed the connoisseurship model on the belief that knowledgeable or expert evaluator can determine whether a particular curriculum program has been successful using a combination of skills and experiences. So in Eisner connoisseurship have uh, two aspects which are connoisseurship and criticism. So when we say connoisseurship, comes from the Latin word cognoscere, meaning to know. It is the art of appreciation and recognizing and appreciating. Another one is criticism. So criticism is an art of saying useful things about complex. This type of thinking has a varied expectations, goals and hope for students, requires creativity explorations or investigation and helping others to see what they might have seen before. So in criticism, it has three aspects, and those are descriptive aspects, interpretative aspects, and evaluative aspects. So when we say a descriptive aspect, it is an attempt to characterize and portray the relevant qualities of educational life. So in here, um, the connoisseur or the expert judge are evaluated the both teacher and student through recorded films, DVDs, video, programs inside the classroom. Then next one is interpretative aspects. So interpretative aspect is the lighten the rules and the regularities. So in here, this is to attempt to understand the meaning and significance of many activities in social environment. Next one and the last one is the appraisal or evaluation or the evaluative aspects. So it is the underlying architecture where judgments are made in the effort to improve the educational process. It presents a better argument or better evaluation of result. So in here, in this dimension, this educational significance and the effect of interpreted experiences or activities are evaluated through criteria and to judge the student each individual. So that's all. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Hi, I'm Marcel Girigalchella, and this is the last part of Chapter 7 Curriculum Evaluation. So, we've already discussed curriculum evaluation concepts. Why do we evaluate? What do we evaluate? How do we evaluate? And the models we use to evaluate in this video. Now, we're going to move on to the methods and approach used to create or choose the models of evaluation. So how do we know if we are using a reliable evaluation designer model? So please take note that we're focusing on the curriculum evaluation model here, not the curriculum model. Okay. So how do we evaluate the curriculum and how do we design the evaluation model or the concept? Now, let's begin with the eclectic approach to curriculum evaluation. So, what is that eclectic approach? So when you say eclectic, this is the combination of the most useful or the best things or the best parts of one thing or of different areas or different systems. We combine them together and then we use them. This is done instead of just using one particular approach or one particular model. So it's just using the best out of the best. So you get the best, the most out of each model or approach, and then you combine them so that you could create the best one, yeah, the most effective one. So that's eclectic approach to curriculum model. So for example, we have already discussed, the 4 curriculum evaluation models, which are the Tyler's objective-centered, Stufflebeam's context, input, process, and product, Stakes responsive, and Eisner connoisseurship model. So, for example, instead of just using Tyler's objective-centered model, then we get the best of it, the best of A, B, C, D, and then we combine it together. And that's how we come up with an eclectic approach to curriculum evaluation. Yes. Now, these are different models as we know it, but they're actually somehow similar because they serve a similar purpose. So what made them similar? So they're similar because they are created based on criteria of actually this one, criteria for curriculum evaluation model. So the common indicators found among the 4 models are the following. First off, studying the context. Yes, teacher's philosophy, determining goals and objectives, determining client's concern, using qualitative methods, assessing opportunity cost, being sensitive to unintended effects, and developing different reports for different audiences. So what are these? I'm going to discuss them later on as we move on to the criteria for curriculum evaluation model. So these four models are actually based on the criteria on this criteria for curriculum evaluation model. That's why we found similarities among four these. Now, let's discuss this criteria for curriculum evaluation model according to Brandt in 1981. So he said that an effective curriculum evaluation model does the following. So, kung effective siya, then that means ito yung mga included niya. So, kung meron to ng kung ang mga this following, if it's included in the curriculum evaluation model, then you can consider that model as an effective one. So let's discuss it. Starting with the first one, the question here, the point here is district resources. So we ask if is it feasible? Is it within the budget? O baka naman yung design sobrang it's too sophisticated that it's not within the budget anymore. So hindi siya possible. So although maganda yung design natin, but it's not within the budget, so it's useless, right? So that's the first thing we have to consider. Next one, applied to all levels of curriculum. So hindi lang dapat isang part, it should be applicable to all levels. So it has to be flexible. So kailangan lahat pwede nating evaluate using this model. All the programs of study, fields of study, and courses of study. Next is still about flexibility. So it has to assess all significant aspects of curriculum. So what are those? The written curriculum, the taught curricula, the supported curricula, the tested, and the learned curricula. Flexibility again. Next one, we have to differentiate and know the difference between merit and worth. So what's the difference between that? So when we say merit, this is the intrinsic value, the overall value of the curriculum. And then the worth is the value for a given context. So let's say the program included in the curriculum. So we have to know, okay, valuable ang ating curriculum design, maganda siya. But is it appropriate or tugma ba sa ating programa? Yung nasa loob ng curriculum, tugma ba siya sa lahat ng ating program? So meron kasing magandang design, but it's not doing its purpose. It's not meaningful, right? Yes, maganda siya. It's like really valuable in its extent, excellently done. So good merit, but then how's the worth? So is it purposeful? That's the question. All right, moving on. So let's talk about district stakeholders. So for district stakeholders, they should be consulted, of course, and their concerns should be given attention because they're the one who make decision. They have the final say. So whatever they say, we have to listen to them because they're actually the experts, right? Next, of course, it should be goal-oriented, just like any other models, curriculum model, assessment model, evaluation model. They should all be goal-oriented, should be based on objectives and outcomes. All right, moving on. Let's discuss it all together. So it has to provide assessment for unintended effects, formative aspects of evaluation, special contexts, and aesthetic or qualitative aspects. So let's start with assessing unintended effects. Unintended are the programs applicable to all or may mga effect bang unintended. Hindi tayo aware pero it's causing something bad na pala and it's giving it's devaluing or it's giving disadvantage to the curriculum. So we should know that. Formative aspects, so it has to be assessed while the program is being implemented. So formative aspects, right? During the implementation. Next, special context. Special context, may mga special requirements ba? May special programs ba? Or special, apart from the regular academic content, ano pa yung ibang needs special attention? All right. Last one, aesthetic or qualitative aspect. So this one, is it good? Does it look effective? Does it look complicated? Or does it seem unorganized? So we have to ask those factors. Okay, moving on to the last three. So we have providing assessment for opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? That's the opportunity lost. So when you say opportunity cost, we have to ask ourselves, do we gain, are we going to lose something because of the design? Are we going to lose something if we choose A instead of B? Or what do we gain? What do we lose? So we have to ask ourselves that. So, kailangan kasi, it's very important that when we choose a curriculum model, it caters to everything, right? We don't lose chances here. So all learning areas, as much as possible, we take that opportunity. Nothing to lose. Next, uses both quantitative and qualitative methods for gathering and analyzing data. Okay, what kind of method are you going to use? Are you going to interview people, or are you going to survey or do a survey? Use questionnaires or checklists. We're going to discuss that later. And lastly, um, reports responsive to the special needs of several audiences. So, of course, a good curriculum evaluation model should check if what they're evaluating includes the special needs of audiences other than the regular or common factors. So, for example, students with special needs or extra activities for several or for some students, or unusual or extra requirements. So, may mga kailangan ba? You have to consider that because again, we have the education for all, right? Diba? We do not discriminate anybody. So we need to know or to set or to give attention or to pay attention to the special needs of several audiences. So there you go. Those are the things that we have to consider or factors that we have to consider when we evaluate or when we are creating evaluation model. So this is the criteria. And again, if it is an effective model if it includes these factors. Right. Now we have learned how to create model, how to know if it's an effective model. Now, if we have made or if we have designed, if we have already designed an evaluation model, how do we implement it? Paano natin maisa sa katuparan ang pag-evaluate ng ating curriculum? So these are the methods that we use. So, dumako na tayo sa tools, methods, and techniques for evaluation. So, what do we do and what do we use? So, first off, we have questionnaires and checklists. So, I think everybody is familiar about questionnaires and checklists, especially those who have had their final research paper. This medyo common to sa atin. So, how do we do it? Of course, questionnaires, we have a series of questions and followed by 3 to 4 to 5 indicators. So for example, this one, question, and then you have indicators. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Strongly agree, neither, or neither disagree nor agree, disagree, or strongly agree. And then for checklist, the questions, there's a question, and of course, you just have to check your answer. That's why it's called a checklist. You just have to put a marking on it, on your answer. Next, we use it, of course, fact about questionnaires and checklists. We use this to get data and information easily and quickly. Very quick nga naman, di ba? And also, it is very inexpensive. We gather largely quantitative data for this one. So it's also easy to be analyzed and be compared because we have programmed software now to count and to check the results, right? So it saves time and it saves resources. Although it has a disadvantage, of course. Hindi nga lang siya kadetalyado because you just have to tick your answer or check. Right? Hindi ganun kadetalyado yung kasarili mong opinion or sariling opinion ng respondent. So that's questionnaires and checklists. We can use that. Next one, we have interviews. Of course, interviews. How it's done, you have to do it one-on-one, face-to-face. Sometimes, if it's not applicable, just like now that we are in the middle of pandemic, we use it through phone call or the internet. So as long as this one is a good way actually because you will be able to to know or to comprehend the respondent's perception and meanings or comprehension of the given situation, or his grasp of reality, how he understands things and how he sees things, right? So maganda siya kasi detalyado yung pagkaka-explain ng respondent mo. Unlike just checking the answers or just saying if it's agree or disagree. So for interview, it can be structured or standardized and unstructured or unstandardized. It can be the combination of those questions. So a structured or standardized meaning my script, you have to follow the questions or the standard questions to be asked to the respondent. So what you ask to respondent A, you have to ask respondent B so that you could get a reliable result. Now, you can also include unstructured and unstandardized question. These are non-scripted questions, follow-up questions, or questions that are not part of the standard procedure. Because sometimes, you have to ask follow-up questions so that you could get what he's really trying to say. And sometimes you add follow-up questions or icebreaker questions just to lighten the mood or the atmosphere when having the interview. Yes. Okay, but always remember that when you provide questions or when you ask questions, they should all be relevant and related to your objective. Why are you doing that interview? Of course, you have to stick to that, right? And also, the data that you're going to gather, they should be translated into a form that you can analyze or the experts can analyze. And it has to be carefully done because this one can be subjective. So medyo mahaba yung mga responses and opinionated, diba? So you have to be careful when analyzing the and translating the information so that you can preserve the accuracy of the data and the result of the interview. Right. Next one, the third method, we have observations. Of course, observations. So how it's done. Observations, you do it during the implementation. Let's say you look at it, you watch what's going on. Actual. So kung kailan mismo nagaganap, so you have to observe. So maganda do kasi you can gather exact, precise, and very accurate data. Kasi nga, you are the eyewitness how when it's being done. So it's a good thing because strong evidence yung nakikita mo. But on the other hand, it could have a disadvantage too because your observation may be different from the observation of another observant. Lastly, we have documentary review and analysis. So for this one, I guess this is done. It's a good way, and it's an easy way because you do not interrupt the process. You are actually evaluating something without interrupting the process. So all you have to do is just gather all the evidence, the documents, for example, circular orders, memorandum, minutes, meetings, or historical documents, like how it's done in the past. You compile them, compare them, and study them. So you are evaluating discreetly. You are studying the situation, let's say on your own desk, without actually interrupting anybody, right? So, and then also you have solid evidences because it's all documented. So you base your evaluation on evidences or documents. So of course, we can use the combination of 4. We can, as much as possible, yes, we use the combination of 4 para talagang we come up with a reliable result or evaluation result. So those are the tools, methods, and techniques for evaluation that we can use when we have designed a model already, and then this is how we do it. Now, what do we consider when evaluating? So we consider evaluation issues. Ano ba yung kailangan mong malaman? Yes, ano bang mga issues of evaluation na pwedeng may butas or pwedeng ma-enhance? Required information. So what do you seek to know? Sources of information. Who are you going to ask? Who are you going to interview? Methods used for collecting data. Yeah, those are the methods discussed. Are we going to use quantitative survey, qualitative interview. And of course, you have to consider that it's better to use qualitative approach or methods because it gives you detailed overview or detailed information or feedback from the concerned or involved persons or people. There you go. Okay, so I guess that would be all. So as you know, those are the things that we can consider or the things that we have to know when we implement or when we do evaluation or when we evaluate curriculum, right? Or the things that we consider when we create an evaluation model. That concludes it. And to finish this video, we want to leave this line. The purpose of education is to replace an empty mind with an open one. So that's from Malcolm S. Forbes. And we all agree to that, right? So I guess that will be all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned and you enjoyed watching. And yeah, magandang araw sa lahat at may you have a great week ahead. Bye!